Okay, so we've got another update video. First off, the tape I talked about in my last video, this seems to work really, really well. I've had a couple of things that I've started and ended up canceling because they were warping. Even though I was using the PLA filament, they were still warping, and it tended to be very large things. Like if I hadn't have used the tape on this, these two right here most likely would have pulled up a little bit. Now when you're doing things small like this, it's usually not too much of a problem. I mean, I still had a little bit on here that you can kind of see. But you know, I want to print big things. I started printing a Terminator skull, but I had to quit it because it was warping extremely bad, and the printer head was going to start hitting it and just destroy it anyway. So the tape works. You've got to be careful not to have them overlap. I've got a little bit of a gap in this one. This one's right on it. So you don't want the pieces to overlap because that could throw off your printing. So that works really well for being able to print large things. The downside to it is the reason it works is because it seems like the filament here actually melts into the tape a little bit, so that it's actually pulling it down, which means it is a gigantic pain to remove it. So I'm going to pull this up, and I can't actually pull that off. I can pull the tape up, but when it gets to the filament, it is stuck. So what I have to do is I've got a large, fairly dull knife here. And what you've got to be careful of is this, the print bed on here is actually covered with a very thick tape of some type. So you don't want to have it angled down and end up cutting this, because then you have to, you know, replace that in there. $5 or so. So instead you want to go in and you just want to get it under there and kind of pull up. You know, don't want to do it too much, and then just gradually work your way across. Once I get it off there, I like to use this little X-Acto knife. I got this at Walmart for about $6. It's a bit of a larger bladed knife, but it was the only one they had. And what I do with this is once I've gotten this off of here, I use this to remove the raft. And so I just go under here and very carefully, I'm not really going to do it on here, you just kind of inch the blade under there a little bit and just start kind of pushing down and up. And eventually this will separate, and it really works pretty well. What I'm making here, these are actually washers for a organizer that I'm building, and you saw in my last video I was printing these off here. And let me stand up so you can see this. This is the way this works. I've got one on the outside, and I drilled some holes through so that this dowel rod here is being supported by these two pieces here, and I shouldn't have to worry about it breaking. Over here is the one that I reprinted last night, because when I got done I realized that if I didn't have this little gap in here, I couldn't take the dowel rod out. And even now, just leaving one of these, it's a little bit of a pain to get it out. There it goes. So on the Thingiverse model that I've published, I've actually made it so that both of these, the dowel rod will just slide in, but I really don't want to have to unscrew this and then print off another one and then fit it all back in here. So I'm just going to leave it like this, and hopefully it'll work. This is a Sterilite container I got at Walmart for about $10, I think. Up here on top, I've got some weather stripping. It's foam. I'll zoom in. It's sticky on both sides, and I just left the tape on here at the top and stuck the bottom down. And the idea is that when I put the lid on here, no air can get in or out. And I've got some of these little silicone gel things that I saved from packaging. I'm going to put all these in here to keep the filament dry. And then over here on the sides, I haven't exactly decided where yet. I'm waiting for everything to get done, put everything together, and I'm going to decide where I'm going to put some holes over here. And I'm going to put some printed nozzles so that just big enough to allow the filament out, and that way I can feed 6 different colors of filament out of this box and keep everything dry, and there's no way that a lot of air, dust, dog hair, cat hair, etc. Will be able to get into here. Oh, I did 3D print one extra thing and actually painted it. One sec while I grab it. Here it is. I 3D printed this. This is from Game of Thrones. And yeah, it turned out pretty well. I painted it with acrylic. I should have gotten a can of the gold spray paint that has a metallic on there. This is supposed to be metallic gold, but it doesn't really look metallic. So, you know, lesson learned. I'll do that maybe for another one. Again, I used, on this part right here, I was really careful about breaking this. And again, that's where, you know, X-Acto knife came in. I just slid it on there, very carefully worked my way across. And then once I was sure that the pin here wasn't going to break off, the rest of this was pretty easy to take off. But anyway, that's this update.